Game week 2 Premier League in the books. I'm Adam Zdroik of RotoWire.com. I'm going over game week 2 in the Premier League. Last week it was a 60-minute show, and I was exhausted for the rest of the day. So I'm going to try and do 60 seconds, gone in 60 seconds for every team in the league. So hopefully we're going to be under 30 minutes on this show. Again, rotowire.com/soccer trial if you want our cheat sheets, if you want all the stuff, if you want all the stats. Otherwise, we have the usual content coming out, news, we cover injuries, we cover suspensions, we have projected lineups, all that good stuff. That is over at rotowire.com/soccer. If you want to check out that trial, it is 48 hours. Again, we'll have Fantrax rankings, FPL rankings. We got a So Rare MLS article. We have betting content, Bundesliga betting content, as well as Premier League betting content, DFS content. We got it all over at RotoWire as we get the season going. Bundesliga kicked off this weekend. It was the first weekend of the season, but similar to last week, I'm going to be using our scoreboard page, rotowire.com/soccer/scoreboard to get over there. I'm going to be just checking this and then going through team by team. As we get going, good morning, Ozzy. Ozzy's always listening to these shows, so shouts to Ozzy. He's always like a live listener here, always giving comments during the show. So I got to shout out Ozzy for always listening to the shows. But here we go. I got a clock here. I'm not sure I'm even going to pay attention to it, but in the lower left-hand corner, I do have a 60-second clock, and we'll see if I pay attention to it. Probably won't, but either way, the first match of the weekend, Brighton home against Manchester United. Brighton got a winning goal late in the match. Big news here. So Mats Wiefer was out with an injury. So Billy Gilmore actually got the start, played pretty well. We now have questions over what's going to happen in Brighton's midfield. They added Matt O'Reilly from Celtic, and there are still rumors. Again, this is the last week of the transfer window. Friday, transfer window ends. Is Billy Gilmore going to go somewhere else? Saw this morning Scott McTominay. It looks like he's headed to Napoli, so maybe that deal with Billy Gilmore is off. If Billy Gilmore stays, there will be a question of who's actually getting minutes. It could be Gilmore and O'Reilly playing in the midfield there, but late winner from João Pedro. Pretty good overall match. Man, I'm already at 60 seconds. This was a bad idea. But I think the big news here from Fabian Hertzler in the first couple matches, he hasn't really rotated much. You know, he rotated Danny Welbeck. Okay, he's a little older. He rotated James Milner. He's a little older. But even with the Dinger on the bench, they just signed Ruder. He's coming off the bench as well. Lamptey returned from his injury. Just minimal substitutions. I think that's pretty relevant. Even with Billy Gilmore, 89 minutes, a guy who maybe he's not going to be on the team going forward. We'll see. But Minta, 89 minutes off his concussion sub from the prior week. 89 minutes from Miedema. João Pedro, 90 minutes. Just pretty good overall. Their new signing from the Bundesliga, he wasn't even on the bench, so there's something going on there. Maybe that'll change things, give them another sub option. But overall, I think it was a pretty even match. Both teams got opportunities, but in the end, Manchester United a little lackadaisical defensively, and that kind of showed up for him. Mason Mount picked up a knock in the first half. He only went 45 minutes. Xerxes came out at halftime. That meant Xerxes was playing more forward. Bruno Fernandes dropped back a little more. In terms of corners, the Brighton situation, 4 corners, 1 for each of these guys, so not really anything that stands out. Bruno Fernandes took 3 corners. Diallo took 1 before getting subbed off. So Ten Hag's been pretty much sticking with Garnacho coming off the bench. I'm not sure the exact reason for that, but I guess he just really likes Marcus Rashford. Diallo, I think Diallo's played better than Rashford for the first couple matches here. As you can see here, 89 minutes for Diallo, 65 for Rashford. So it's just something to keep an eye on. What happens with these Manchester United wingers in terms of playing time. I think eventually we're going to get Garnacho and Diallo playing on the wings because Rashford just hasn't shown up. I said the same thing last week. 0 shots in this one. Last season, whenever he got the ball, he was just ripping shots. Another game of 0 shots. Not a good look for him in this matchup. Overall, got the assist for Mazraoui there, but an okay match for Manchester United. It looks like McTominay is on his way out, but still pretty slim on this bench here because we still don't know what's going to happen with Anthony, Eriksen. Sancho is on his way out, so I mean, you look at it, it's kind of still a thin squad for Manchester United. Just a defensive lapse in the end that lost them any kind of point. Crystal Palace home against West Ham. Crystal Palace, first match without Joachim Anderson in a few years here. Chadi Riyad, he came from La Liga. I want to say Villarreal. He came from somewhere in La Liga, so it was a little bit of a different back line. As we look at the numbers here, also Jefferson Lerma got the start. Will Hughes was out with an illness. Chris, both teams had chances, but it eventually came to West Ham getting the win. Looking at the numbers for Crystal Palace, as we expected, kind of doing it all. They only had 3 corners, also 2 for him, 1 for Wharton. Edouard also had 71 minutes, 4 shots. What I'm seeing here, so Eddie Nketiah looks like I'm going to be saying a lot of rumors on this, but it looks like Eddie Nketiah is going to come in. Edouard maybe going opposite way, going out to Celtic, is the last rumor I saw just before jumping on the show. Doesn't seem like Edouard is going to be playing this role. It was a bit of a weird look here with Eze, Mateta, and Edouard. Kamada didn't really great in the opener, so he came off the bench. Ismail Sarr also came off the bench. Pretty thin squad outside of defenders, defensive midfielders. Jeffrey Schlupp, still a guy here. So next week, I think we're going to get Kamada or Sarr back in the starting 11. And then we'll see what the situation is at center back. Is Chadi Riyad just going to be the guy at center back? Is he going to start every match? I didn't look at the latest rumors for Lacroix coming over from Wolfsburg over in the Bundesliga. So he's probably going to come in. It's probably going to be Guéhi, Richards, and Maxence Lacroix. We'll see if that actually goes through or not. One thing I saw from the box score here, Tyreek Mitchell, 7 crosses, Daniel Munoz, 0 crosses. Very interesting in terms of just possible upside from these guys. Munoz, it always seems like he's more likely to score. He's a guy more likely to, take a shot from the corner of the box kind of thing. Mitchell maybe more likely to assist and send some crosses in. So I found that interesting in that part. West Ham, I think the big thing here is, well, first off, 0 minutes for James Ward-Prowse. It looks like he has been in rumors possibly to go to Nottingham Forest, which is an interesting move, I would say. But Jared Bowen, 3 corners, no one else anymore. Look at Jared Bowen's numbers. Pretty solid overall. Only got 1 shot, but because of those corners, 5 chances created along with set pieces. So the big thing here, I guess, is what I didn't say initially. Aaron Wan-Bissaka came on. I think he stole the ball and then just took the ball, dribbled past a couple guys, and then ended up, I guess he didn't get the assist here to, I think that was the Soucek. But either way, Wan-Bissaka came on for Soufal and had that incredible run. I think eventually we're going to see Wan-Bissaka in the starting 11. Eventually we're going to have Fulkrug coming in the starting 11. This was scoreless. Both those guys came on. And then West Ham got the goal in the 67th and the 72nd minute there. So I think those guys are eventually going to start for West Ham. It is taking a little bit longer for West Ham. I don't know, for Lopetegui to feel comfortable for some of these guys. I guess they were kind of late signings. I think they've both been there. Fulkrug and Wan-Bissaka, they've both been there for about a couple weeks now. But Todibo also on the bench here, got a couple minutes off the bench. Edson Alvarez returned from his hamstring injury that he suffered in Copa America. Somerville, 0 minutes. Is there going to be minutes for guys like this in this squad with the way that they're playing? Like, where is Somerville going to come on? He's just going to be depth for basically Bowen, Paquetá, and Kudos. It's going to require one of those guys to get injury for Somerville to see significant time. James Ward-Prowse just kind of get weeding out of the lineup here because he got defensive midfielders with Guido Rodriguez, Soucek, and James Ward-Prowse, not really the same type of player either. And then Edson Alvarez also in here as well. Next game. We're moving a little faster next week, so it's good for my sanity is what I'll say. Fulham, Leicester City. Fulham, this was a fun match. It was a little up and down, which is kind of what was to be expected in the first place. I wouldn't say either side has great midfield, great overall defense, great cohesion just yet, but Fulham at the better numbers, which isn't too surprising. Rodrigo Muniz, 7 shots in this one in 80 minutes. Kind of similar to what he's doing last season, especially in good spots. Just they're sending balls up, sending balls to him, and he's just ripping shots kind of almost whenever he gets the ball. What did he have? 5 passes here. 5 completed passes, 7 shots. So that's kind of what they're doing. Andreas Pereira, even though he's in this defensive role, I said it last week, like he's still going to be getting up plenty. He's still on all set pieces. 7 corners for him here, 7 chances created, a couple shots. So maybe a little more defensive, but it's so fluid that it's not, I don't think it's going to affect him too much. Adama Traore, another start. Smith Rowe got his debut goal for him, opening goal for him. And they added Sander Berg from Burnley. So that'll be one thing to keep an eye on going forward. He wasn't on the bench in this one, but is he going to come in for Sasa Lukic, or is Sander Berg going to play next to Sasa Lukic, which I don't think they do, but it's always a possibility. It seems maybe a little too defensive. If they did that, how would their front four look like? Would Adama move to the bench, kind of a thing? Sometimes Adama looks great in certain parts, maybe more of a super sub, but it's just hard to say. He can pretty much run past anyone, overpower anyone on the wing, but sometimes that finishing product isn't there for him. So we'll see how Sanderberg comes into this Fulham lineup. As for Leicester City, this is it would have been a good spot for them to get a point. They're going to be battling relegation all season. They're still adding players. I forget, they're just in some rumors to add someone else this morning. I forget who exactly it was. Maybe my biggest surprise is that Mavididi is just not really getting many minutes here. Was kind of a regular last season in the Championship, and now it's just like, okay, maybe he's not right for the Premier League, or Steve Cooper isn't just that big of a fan. They got Jamie Vardy up there. Buonanotte has been kind of the, if you compare it to the Nottingham Forest teams, Buonanotte is kind of like the Morgan Gibbs White of the team, and then Jamie Vardy is kind of like the Awani, if you want to go that far. And okay, if you want to say Buonanotte is the Morgan Gibbs White, then I think that's kind of where your problems start. But he probably is their best creative player, so he's going to continue to get minutes unless they add someone else. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head who they're in discussion to add, but I think IU could actually move into the starting 11 here. Just more experienced guy, I think better overall than Cordova-Reid. Cordova-Reid was always struggling to get minutes at Fulham, and I'm just not sure he's like a regular starter in the Premier League. I think Jordan Ayew is just a little more consistent, so maybe he's gonna. We'll see what the corner situation comes out to. Going into the season, it was like, okay, Fatua and Mavididi split corners, and then Buonanotte came in, so Buonanotte is getting corners, and then Harry Winks is getting corners. Christensen took one in this one. Maybe Ayuk's gonna take some as well. So just an ongoing situation there. And again, Oliver Skip got his debut for them coming off the bench. But I think eventually we'll see IU start over Cordova-Reid, and then we'll see how long Jamie Vardy can remain in the starting 11 given his injuries, or given his age, I should say. Ipswich Town at Manchester City, they got one shot and they scored on it, and then the game went the rest of the way as we kind of thought it would be. Disappointing for Ederson just not to see anything else after that opening goal. Nothing too surprising here to take away from this match. I guess I was going to say, so De Bruyne at 89 minutes again. I think maybe one of the takeaways here is that De Bruyne enters the season pretty healthy. He came off Euros, they didn't go too far in Euros, but he enters the season healthy. Didn't enter last season healthy. Haaland also healthy. Pep made a point to say that Haaland is doing awesome right now. And he's healthier than he was at the start of last season. So we take those two things into account. We look at De Bruyne's numbers, also taking into account, okay, Savinho also splitting corners. Savinho with a great match here on the right side. They kind of went to that right side a lot. Doku, just the numbers aren't there. If you play DFS, he didn't, as you can see here, no shots, no crosses. He had a couple of chances created, but Kovacic got injured in this one. Feels like Rodri is going to be back in the 11 next week. We'll see if he's going to be ready to go. This will be the second week that he's back following his Euro triumph. Grealish also get minutes off the bench. John Stones came on for Kovacic in this one because Rodri wasn't on the bench. Issa Kabore on the bench. I'm surprised that he didn't get a loan elsewhere. We'll see what happens with that situation. Also, Kyle Walker, 0 minutes. We'll see how this plays out. Rico Lewis has been really kind of playing, right back, central midfielder. He cuts in a bunch. He was playing basically as an attacking midfielder in the spot just because Ipswich just were kind of a lost cause at a certain point. We'll see when Kyle Walker is going to get back in the starting 11. He'll Again, he'll take the spot of Rico Lewis, assumedly. Ipswich Town, how much can we take away from these matches for Ipswich? Liverpool, Manchester City. I think it's going to start to get interesting as they get to play different teams. I guess let me check here. Who do they play? They're home against Fulham, so a pretty good spot there for Ipswich to get some points. Smodix in his first start for Ipswich got the goal on their lone shot. We'll see how they line up. They played with five defenders in this one. We'll see if that they'll continue with that. I don't know if they will. I think they'll go back to kind of the 4-2-3-1 where Leif Davis is basically a left-sided winger, and then Twanzebe or Ben Johnson are playing a little deeper at right back. And then Kajust came over from Napoli. We'll see what kind of minutes he's going to get. Chaplin was dropped to the bench because they changed formations. So a couple things here. Muric is back from his calf issue. And I believe they're going to they did add O'Shea from Burnley. So I think O'Shea is actually going to take Wolf Fenden's spot at center back, if not next week, at least going forward for the majority of the season. So a couple things there to keep an eye on. But good debut start for Smodix. And that's kind of what we're looking at with Ipswich. I think we'll get a better sense of what their team is against Fulham next week. Southampton, maybe my disappointment of the weekend. They look great against Newcastle. I said it last week. They look great at Newcastle. So we get into Newcastle. Maybe that was more about Newcastle there. But so Southampton dominate possession, and they just couldn't create anything off of it. I think they finished with, it was like 0.15 XG in this one, 65% possession, 5 shots. Maybe they're not ready for the Premier League is what it comes down to. Man, just overall a disappointment. This is their home opener. Nottingham Forest has had so many more opportunities, whether it was off the counter or just the big, I guess once I get to Nottingham Forest, the small bone 3 corners, Walker Peters also took a corner here. How much can we take away from this match for Southampton? We'll see what it looks like going forward. So they use the same lineup as the game against Newcastle with the 3-5-2. You got Sugawara and Walker Peters both on the wings, and then the 2 forwards up top. We'll see what it looks like going forwards if that's what they're going to continue to do. They still haven't scored yet. They dominated Newcastle once they were up a guy, and the control possession in this match against Nottingham Forest. They still haven't scored. You got to think they're going to do something different. I don't know if they can continue like this. Maybe Russell Martin wants to. I'm not sure. There's a ton of takeaways overall from this team, but you'd want more than one combined shot from Brereton Diaz and Adam Armstrong in this game. Just not great overall. Also, you got an early sub from Adam Armstrong after just a poor performance. Cameron Archer came on for him. Nottingham Forest, you get an away win. That's 3 points. That's about as good as you're going to do here for a team that battled relegation last season. So obviously, as I said, the big thing here, Alanga took almost all corners. Anderson took 1. Morgan Gibbs-White is just off corners. So we're removing corners from this one, but Gibbs-White still gets the goal. 1 cross compared to 9 crosses for Alanga. I mentioned it last week, but Alanga 90 minutes here. I think he went 58 minutes in the opener. Now he's at 90 minutes. Callum Hudson-Odoi goes 89 minutes. So I guess those guys are there for the minutes. Might be a thing where we don't really know all season how those minutes are going to look. Alex Moreno is not on the bench. It's assumed, or we expect, that Alex Moreno is going to come into left back. Ola Aina is going to move to right back. Nico Williams is going to move to the bench. That's what figures to be the process here for fullback for Nottingham Forest. They also added another center back. I don't know if that was confirmed yet, but I don't know. I think it's just going to be a depth play. I assume that Milenkovic and Murillo will be the guys there. But yeah, I guess because Elliot Anderson was playing in this role, this more defensive role, that they didn't have, Anderson to come on for Hudson-Odoi or Alanga on one of the wings. So maybe that was one of the reasons. And you don't really, you don't want to play, obviously you don't want to play Yates on the wing. Dominguez can play on the wing, but he really hasn't done it too much with Nottingham Forest. Joe DeSilva is still a young guy, not ready for the Premier League, I'd say. They're going to add they put another bid for Santiago Jimenez from Feyenoord. So that will be one thing that changes some things up. But is he going like he's going to be? I assume he's going to be a central striker. So maybe he'll play on the wing. I don't know. Maybe they'll change formations. Tottenham home against Everton, got early goals, and one of my favorite bets of the week was Tottenham first half money line, second half money line. Again, not really too difficult here. You got Roman Dixon, however old he is, 18 years old, starting at right back as their fourth choice over at Everton. And then Pickford comes in, makes a massive mistake to allow that second goal in the 25th minute. Basuma got that first one, and then it was just like, okay, nothing really too much happened from there. Tottenham, pretty good overall match. The big takeaway is that they really only used one true defensive midfielder. Betancourt was out with an injury or with a concussion last week, but Basuma came back from his manager suspension, so he was in there, and then Pape Sarr was actually dropped. So are they going to continue with this look where you got Kulusevski and Madison, and then Johnson, Odegaard on the wings, Son playing a little more centrally with Solanke out with an ankle injury. So that's the question with them. They did this a few times last season. Maybe it was because of matchup. Maybe it was because of matchup against Everton that Postecoglou wanted to take a little bit of a different route. So something to monitor. You know, usually it was the 4-2-3-1 with the guys like Basuma and Sarr playing next to each other last season. But maybe Postecoglou is going to mix it up a little more just to get a little more consistency scoring goals. Big thing in terms of corners, no longer Pedro Porro. We got a split of Madison and Kulusevski, so something to monitor going forward. And then Everton, what are we going to say about Everton? I don't know. Roman Dixon started at right back. There's not much to say about that. We look at the numbers here, just absolutely wild looking at these numbers. Dwight McNeil, 10 corners, 6 chances created, 6 accurate crosses. No one else really did anything to note here looking at the numbers. Just this game was kind of dead from the start once Basuma got that goal. Decore, another early sub. Jack Harrison, an early sub. Maybe we'll start to see more time for Lindstrom and Ndiaye. I think eventually Ndiaye may be the actual starter here in Decore's spot. It kind of seems like that's where it's heading, given this first couple matches. But again, so beat up on the back line, having to start Roman Dixon, having to start Michael Keane with no Branthwaite. Looks like Branthwaite's going to stay. When is he in return? Seems like it's going to be the international break at this point. So just a tough start to the season for Everton. Not much more to say about that. Aston Villa home against Arsenal. Pretty even match. Both teams had their opportunities. Then Trossard came in and kind of changed things up a little bit. But good result in the end for Arsenal if they want a chance at the title. I mean, you look at the numbers, not too surprising overall. I took the under 2.5 goals in this one, and I mentioned why not take under Arsenal corners. Personally, I'm too scared to do that, bet against Arsenal corners, but in the end, they finished with 1 corner. So shouts to Unai Emery in limiting Arsenal to only 1 corner. But minutes-wise, I think we have some interesting things here. Again, John McGinn is an early sub. Morgan Rogers, their transfer from January. Ryan Bolangi he gave me a couple things he saw from the week. And one thing he wanted to know was that Morgan Rogers, man of the match, he said, against Arsenal. I think he may have been the actual team man of the match in the opener. Can't remember exactly. But again, another 90 for Morgan Rogers. He can play in multiple positions. Like he can play as a number 9. He can play on the wing. He can play as a central player as well. So it looks like, as long as he's healthy, the days of playing McGinn and fantasy and DFS might be over. Not even a roll on corners, less than 70 minutes again. Didn't have a great run at the Euros. Was awesome last season. Didn't have a great run at the Euros, and that kind of has continued here, which is unfortunate for him. Eddie Cash picked up a hamstring injury, probably going to be out until the international break. This youngster they added from, I don't know if it was Red Star Belgrade or somewhere else, Kosta Nedeljkovic. It was Red Star, so shots at me on getting that right. 18 years old. Otherwise, we look at the minutes. Leon Bailey getting 90, maybe surprising. As we see here, Matson, maybe he'll eventually take over the spot of Luca Digne. Hasn't happened yet. Buendia still hasn't gotten time. Philogene, maybe he'll be more of an option. I think we got cup matches coming up this week. So a bunch of these guys will be getting starts and more minutes midweek. But that's Aston Villa. And then Arsenal. Arsenal, not too much here. This is just the team here. Jurgen Timber got the start over Zinchenko, and Zinchenko. There's plenty of pictures, plenty of videos of Zinchenko looking pissed on the bench, which isn't surprising, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now in terms of him in this squad. He's probably going to be eventually, if he isn't already, he's going to be third choice left back for Arsenal. Timber got the start, played well. Calafiori came on for him. Timber probably not 100% ready to go 90 minutes, hence the 79 minutes here. Party has played pretty well to open the season. If we remember correctly, he returned from his injury and then pretty much started a bunch of the matches late in the season. Just a kind of a different player, provides a little bit of different option there in the midfield next to Declan Rice. And, it's working out really well for him. Again, Martinelli got another start, 65 minutes. Trossard came on, ended up having the most shots for Arsenal in this one. And moving to Sunday, I'm doing okay time-wise. Not as fast as I want it to be, but we're getting there. Bournemouth home against Newcastle. Bournemouth unlucky not to get a winner, not to get 3 points here. Probably, I wouldn't say for the most part. I don't know. I want to say look like the better team, but they did have 39% possession, but this was pretty even overall. They had a late goal called off. Who was that? I think it was Dango Otara. It looked like at first it looked like he had the cross in, the corner in, and then it hit his shoulder and they called it off. Or I guess it hit his high arm and they called it off. So that was unfortunate for Bournemouth. But looking at the numbers here, I think we're going to get off and on switches in the starting 11 between Ryan Christie and Alex Scott. That's kind of what it looks like. I think I'm already projecting Alex Scott back in the starting 11. I think he just provides a little more creativity, a little bit more in that central midfield spot. Not sure how it's going to play out, but it could be a thing where it keeps they want to keep switching that. Justin Kluivert back in the starting 11 after not starting again. It's a guy that I'm not sure he's going to be starting every match, especially with Dango coming off the bench, Sinisterra coming off the bench. Julian Rayo gets his first start right back. He came on for Adam Smith last week. Seems like he's going to be the starting right back now. Adam Smith, as we know, is kind of getting up there in age. Max Aarons is probably going to get loaned out or move somewhere else. I've not mentioned Evan Nilsson in his debut here. Looked pretty decent, playing this number 9, Solanke's old spot. Obviously not the same kind of player, but did well in this spot. Didn't score, 3 shots, a couple on target. Semenyo, again, just a guy. He is, more likely than anyone on the team to go 90 minutes. Sorry, not of the team, in the front 4, more or less. He is more likely to go 90. I think that's back-to-back 90s open this season. Also, importantly, even though he didn't start centrally, Tavernier went 85 minutes here. So I want to say Tavernier is probably more fit than he's been in the past 3 years. He battled so many hamstring injuries. So it's good to see from him 85 and 90 to start the season. Good start for both of Semenyo and Tavernier. Newcastle, I want to say just a little disappointing here. That they're close to losing this match. They had that opener against Southampton. They're kind of outplayed at home, and then in this one, I don't know. I still want to say kind of disappointing. I know they got the point at Bournemouth, though. You could look at it like, okay, Eddie Howe just hasn't had success against Bournemouth, his former team, at all. They lost at least one match last season. They lost a bunch actually against them. Eddie Howe just hasn't had success against Bournemouth, so maybe it's that. They do get Sandro Tonali back tomorrow, Tuesday. Tonali's suspension ends, so he's probably going to eventually come in and be the starter over Sean Longstaff. And I think they're hoping, at least Newcastle fans are hoping, that's going to be the boost there. We'll see what happens with Trippier. So Trippier came on, got 32 minutes, still had 8 crosses, was taking all the corners. Is he going to stay on the team? We're going to find out in 5 days here. And given what he came on, when he came on, is he going to start starting over Livramento? Lloyd Kelly also started at left back here over Lewis Hall. Lloyd Kelly is kind of like the Dan Burn here, starting at left back. Not really, a true left back, true fullback. Can play center back, can play left back. Lewis Hall a little more offensive than that. So interesting there. Jacob Murphy continues to get time. Seems like Miguel Almiron's going to be on his way out, just no longer getting minutes there with all these other guys being healthy. Wolves, Chelsea, got this one wrong. I took Wolves double chance. I thought just both teams would score. I did not think Chelsea would convert every opportunity. I actually think Wolves finished with a higher XG than Chelsea in this match. Look at this. Chelsea fans are kind of surprised at how this went down. 14 shots, 6 goals. Looking at Wolverhampton, overall just really disappointing. Just multiple defensive lapses. They could not defend the counter, even with Joe Gomez, Mario Lemina. They're kind of enforcers in the midfield. They just kind of got picked apart a little bit, and then Aiden Reed struggled against Madueke, and I think Toti Gomez plays as the left center back there. Just those guys. It just wasn't there. So you want to say, okay, maybe is that because Max Kilman, was he like the best communicator? He was their captain, playing center back. So you take that away, Mosquera comes in, and maybe that communication isn't there, and you have Nelson Semedo is still suspended, so Doherty's starting above him. You don't have Pedro Neto there anymore. I think we might start to see, some 3 center back looks. They did that for a little bit. Craig Dawson came on in this one, 4-8 in a re. That didn't really work. I mean, they're already down 5-2 at that point. So we could see some 3 center back looks for Wolves, just trying to figure things out, because they were just absolutely brutal against the counter in this one. On the opposite end, look at these numbers here. So I know they had 14 shots. Madueke had 6. Cole Palmer, 1 goal, 3 assists. He had 5 shots. No one else. Felix had 2 shots off the bench. No. Look at the other numbers for the starters here. Just look, comparing. If you played any of these guys in fantasy, it's like, okay, they got 6 goals, but what did Gusto do? What did Cucurella do? Just no one else really did anything, because these goals, I think all 6 were off the counter. Maybe I'd have to think about it a little bit. However those early goals happened, I can't remember exactly. Nicholas Jackson, I think, got the first one. But that's what happens when you get goals off the counter. It's going to be your super attacking players. You're not going to get the assist from Gusto or Cucurella. So maybe not something to think about going forward. But look at this, 90 minutes from Madueke. And Cuckoo also, because he started midweek, he did not get the start. We'll see how this lineup shapes out going forward. I do think that you cannot play Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and Romeo Lavia together again. Maybe that was a thing because they played Manchester City, maybe not, but I don't think they're going to do that going forward. I think you have these attacking players, so put them on the pitch. I think Pedro Neto is going to actually come in the starting 11. Mudryk surprisingly got the start after those quotes by Maresca. Think Pedro Neto is going to come in 11. I'm not sure what kind of minutes Joao Felix is going to get. He was just added earlier in the week, still got 22 minutes, got the goal. Where's Joao Felix going to play? I guess he can play also on this left wing. I don't know. I guess he came out for Nicholas Jackson. Is he going to play over Nicholas Jackson? I don't know what these minutes are going to look like. Madueke, a week ago, it was looking like, okay, where is he going to get loaned to? Where is he going to go to? Now it's like, okay, he just got this hat trick. He looked great at times. Another guy that Ryan Belangi wanted to shout out to me. Of course, got the hat trick, but how are these minutes going to shape out in Chelsea? That's one thing that's yet to be decided. Dewsbury Hall, a Maresca guy, again, coming off the bench. Is he going to come into the starting 11 at some point? Maybe, maybe not. One more game. Look at this. We're cruising here. Nothing too surprising in this Liverpool match. 2-0. Brentford got a couple opportunities, but at some point, this goal in the 13th minute, Thomas Frank will be the first to tell you, when you go to a team like Liverpool, when you're a massive underdog against a team like Liverpool, one thing you cannot do is off your own counter, get beat for a goal. And that's what happened. And Mbeumo wasn't fast enough to take down Luis Diaz on that goal. It was a great goal by Liverpool, just getting it off the counter. But that's one thing you cannot do as an underdog against a team like Liverpool. Do not give up a goal off your own counter. You got to prevent those things. It was just kind of a few events that just led to the wide open breakaway there for Liverpool. But overall, this team looks set to get more clean sheets than the Jurgen Klopp teams. They already have 2. I think that was the thought going into the season, just like a little more defense, a little more safer. I talked to Chris Owen about it, a Liverpool fan, just mentioning the presence of Gravenberch in there, better on the ball, and maybe that's helping a little bit in terms of how they play. TAA got absolutely pissed. Had to come off at the 72nd minute. If you haven't seen it, there's a lot of videos, pictures of him just looking disgusted, getting subbed off after the match. I don't know if that is going to mean anything, but I thought it was kind of funny. And then, so I mentioned the few subs last week, but still, okay, 2-0 when they get the second goal. It was pretty early. Yeah, Salah got the goal. So after the second goal, it's like, okay, Diaz, you're off. Jota off. Give some fresh legs. Salah off also came off. But again, Soboslai, 90 minutes. I know he didn't show up, fantasy wise. One shot, two chances created. Didn't take any corners. It was all TAA and Robertson. But it was just the kind of match it was. I think it's still important that Soboslai is getting 90 minutes here. I think that's going to come to fruition at some point. Again, Gakpo and Darwin coming off the bench. Brentford, this wasn't too surprising. I think their last 4 trips to Anfield, the score is 9-0. They have not scored in their last 4 trips, losing those combined 9-0. So there's not much to take away from this one. As expected, they went. I know Opta's listing this as like a 4-4-2. I looked at the heat maps. It's pretty much a 3-5-2. Like Jensen was not like a right-sided midfielder. It was a 3-5-2 here, which is what I projected, and I assume most people projected. He had Keane Lewis-Potter in this left wing role because they don't have Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey. Those guys are getting close. Rico Henry is close. He might be on the bench, might be available to play in Brentford's next game. Something to keep an eye on. So that's going to probably remove time. If they play in a 4-3-3, you're probably going to see Rico Henry come on for Ayer, something like that. Or if, I guess technically you could have him come on for Rearslev, and then they'll swap backs or something like that. But otherwise, this is what their look is. Lewis-Potter started. I think they're going to move back. They're home against someone weaker, I want to say. So I think they're going to move back to the 4-3-3 next game. Kevin Shada will probably come back in the starting 11 over Keane Lewis-Potter. That's just my assumption, but that's all we got. Look at this, 36 minutes. We got 11 live comments here. I'll check those out. Let me pull up the FPL cheat sheet here before I take off. RotoWire.com/soccer trial, 48-hour trial. Here's some projected lineups. Here are the odds. There you go. Freebie right there. Let me read some comments. Oh, it's all Ozzy. Ozzy's just going off. Bernardo Silva is staying at Manchester City. Grealish does seem like the odd man out at this point, now that they got Gundogan. So we'll see how those minutes shape up. Again, Phil Foden, I think he was sick or had a knock. He missed the game. Savinho started. How are these minutes going to shape up? Is Doku going to be the one to get strapped to the bench? Is it going to be Savinho? That's one thing for Manchester City. And that's not even considering, like, Oscar Bob was thought to get minutes. But now that, now they have all these guys, Oscar Bob is just not in the equation anymore either. A lot of, like, once we get to cup play, once we get to Champions League, that's when it's going to become clear, like, what Pep wants to do, how much he's going to rotate in some of these games. Because, I mean, at some point for a lot of these teams, they play the same starting 11. But if you, like a team with Manchester City, you got the guys like Grealish, you got guys like Gundogan, Foden didn't even start in this last game. You got those guys. So there's just figures to be more rotation for the Manchester Cities come Champions League. I just don't think Manchester City have had this kind of depth in recent seasons. I don't know. They're usually, they got their guys off the bench, but they just don't have this wide range of guys off the bench. Like, I didn't even mention Rodri as well. Didn't play in this one. So you throw him in there in the 11. Then you got Kovacic coming off the bench. Just a really deep team right now. Pickford overrated, buy low on Newcastle. Okay. Madueke underrated as well. Luis Diaz elite. Gravenberch a stud. Detroit bad boy says didn't know you were from Michigan. LFG. Did I say I was from Michigan anywhere? Yeah. Anyway, I'm from Michigan. I live on Lake Michigan over here. So shout out to Michigan, Michigan State that is. But there we go. That's game week 2 in the Premier League. Went a little shorter. It got 20 minutes. This timer in the left-hand corner, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, I unfortunately did not listen to that. But there's still a lot to going on. We still have 4 more days of the transfer window going on, so there's a lot to talk about. Maybe as we get to, I don't know, game week 5 or something, I'll be able to do a 30-minute show. But there's just so much to talk about. Hopefully all this helped. Thank you for watching, everyone. And we'll see everyone throughout the week. We got betting shows. We got DFS shows. Check out our YouTube, youtube.com/@RotoWireSoccer. Thank you, everyone.